Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and this is part 2 of my discussion for the Game Awards. So if you have not seen part 1, check that out. It's the most recent video I put up. Also, you will get the first part of the footage that you're seeing because this is the new Pragmata demo, and what you're going to see right now is like literally the boss fight, and then I start the demo over again. So if you have not seen part 1 yet, just go check that out. Odds are I did not remember to put that little card up. I never remember to do that on the rare occasion I need to. So it's literally the last video I uploaded. Just click on the channel, it'll be right there for you. But getting into part 2 of my discussion of the Game Awards. Also, I can tell you guys right now, I should be able to get through this whole thing. I was like, man, it's never clear traffic in the morning. I looked at the time, it was like a 17-minute video I put up. I never get to work that fast. There was like no traffic for some odd reason. But there's traffic after work, so we're gonna go ahead and get through this. And we're gonna kick things off with John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. So every time I see this, I'm like, it seems interesting. It's got like an 80s aesthetic, and it's just an over-the-top action game where it's 4 players, very bloody, gory Left 4 Dead, new age version of Left 4 Dead. Hopefully a good version of Left 4 Dead, because we've had, other variations on, it's kind of like Left 4 Dead with Evolve and then Back 4 Blood, which didn't work. We also have 4 Loop coming up, which is another, Left 4 Dead thing. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, I like it. Every time I see the trailer, I think this might be my favorite one. I feel like we always get a little bit more gameplay each time we see it. They actually like go further and further. And this one was like all straight up gameplay. And I was like, okay, I think I could like this one. It seems like it's one of those just ridiculous over the top things where you'll have tons and tons of enemies. You'll have tons and tons of ammo, but you still kind of have to strategize. And then you can drive, you can shoot, you got all sorts of weird stuff going on. So I'm actually looking forward to that one. Hopefully, obviously some games, if I'm kind of like iffy, is like I'll wait for reviews, especially if it kind of lives or dies on co-op and stuff like that. I tend to wait for reviews unless the game is like, hey, I just want that game. But I'm looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be pretty good. I hope all games work out really well. But I like that one. I like the aesthetic of it, and I like the absolute chaos and just what it seems like you can do just running and gunning with the crew. I'm curious about the story because it seems like they're traveling. So I'm sure there's some story to it. That's like the one thing I feel like we don't really have. Everything has just been, well, they're traveling. They got, you get like the vehicle and they're going from point A to point B, but we don't know what point B is. So I'm curious about the story of that as well, because I feel like there's going to be more to it than, kind of how Left 4 Dead was just like little episodes. I hope. I shouldn't say I feel. I actually just hope there's a full-on story, because if you're going to do it, if it's fun enough, you'll replay it anyway. I mean, we replay Left 4 Dead and there's like no story whatsoever except for one of the secret chapter, like the lost chapters they added into Left 4 Dead 2. That's literally like the only thing that ever had like a connective tissue between episodes. Other than that, it's always just like, we left and now we're in this different spot, but they rarely connect. You're always so far away. So hopefully there's a story trailer coming up soon enough, but I think that one looks pretty good. After that was Stupid Never Dies, which was made by a company filled with people that did like Devil May Cry and Resident Evil, and I forgot what the other game was. I wanted to just randomly say Street Fighter because it was clearly like Capcom stuff, but action people. And I was like, okay, we got a little bit of info from it because mostly it was just like the pseudo anime style, music trailer, and that was pretty much it for most of the trailer. And then I was like, okay, here's some stuff where it seems like only the zombie fights, because I don't remember in the trailer actually seeing the woman do anything. Like, it says that she's a sniper and stuff like that, but we mostly see the zombie fight. Like, he vomits on people. I assume he was the one turning into the wolf, although like I guess that could have been her, but he's got some interesting moves. I like what I saw, and I was like, okay, we'll see how it comes. That's another one of those things where it's like hack and slash can really be like, kind of iffy. You never know. And this was like, okay. It definitely has the look and style and feel of a Lollipop Chainsaw, 100%. They even named the girl Julia, even though I know it's Juliet. But I was like, man, it just makes me think Lollipop Chainsaw. So if it can get close to that, then it should be fine. I love Lollipop Chainsaw. That's one of those games where I think I played through it like 2 full times, and then the hard difficulty was too hard at like the high school level. I just couldn't beat it, because for anyone who's never played Lollipop Chainsaw, I don't know what they did with the reboot, but one of the big things in that first game was like, it was kind of old school, where it was like, yeah, you don't really have like any checkpoints in that game, and if you do, they're like super far apart. They are like few and far between. It was one of those issues back in the day. It was like, fun game, but if you're on a harder difficulty and you're at a tough spot, that junk takes an eternity. But Stupid Never Dies. seems interesting. We'll see how it ends up panning out, and maybe pick it up, maybe not. It doesn't hit like, you know, like Romeo is a Dead Man. That's like, okay, you know, that was 100%. This one was like, yeah, okay, we'll see. I love the moves I saw, especially like the where you like summoned all the zombies out of the ground, but they were like bomb zombies, so they all had like little fuses on them and stuff. And I was like, okay, I like the idea of the moves. We'll see how it all kind of coalesces when it's like, here's everything you can do in the game. Is it still really fun? Or is it, you know, kind of lollipop chainsaw? Like once I did it, honestly, that game didn't have much replayability outside of costumes. It was just, if you like the game enough, you'll just play it. And I actually enjoyed the combat enough that I did it twice, because there's really nothing to get in that game outside of alternate costumes. So if it's in that realm, if it's cheap enough, that's fine. If it comes out $70, which I don't think they're gonna do that, but if it does, then that junk better be effing amazing. So we'll see what happens with it. Obviously, it's the first trailer. Maybe we'll get some more stuff. You tell me it's some Devil May Cry people. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna trust that. I'm constantly excited for the current gen hack and slash. Like I'm always looking forward to that, because I want some new good stuff. But moving on from that, we go back to the Left 4 Dead thing, because we literally have someone involved with Left 4 Dead plus Bad Robot, and they're like, hey, what if we do kind of Left 4 Dead, but once again, an actual story, which I'm excited for. And I'm a sucker for like a future weird story, and you die and then you get replicated and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I want to see what's happening there. And maybe it was just the trailer, but it's definitely one of those things where it was like, they did a lot of focus on like, oh, you die and you replicate, but it seemed like it kept zooming in on the person. And I was like, if you die so many times, does it change what happens to your character? Is that a story thing? Because it seemed like they were teasing something there where it was like getting really ominous, where it was like you die and you replicate and stuff. And it was fast paced, so it could have just been the fast paced repetition of dying and coming back. But I was also like, I wonder if they do like a replication thing where you die so many times, maybe this happens or that happens. We don't know, you know, build abilities or anything like that. It could just be guns. It could be some extra stuff. We kind of just have to wait and see. But I was like, especially with it being, you know, J.J. Abrams, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised. You died this many times. Alternate ending, or, you know, this, that, or the other. So we'll see what happens with that. He loves his mystery box situation. So we'll see how that one goes, but I'm definitely curious about it. Moving on from there, we have the people that did Soma, and Ontos is the name of this game. Looks creepy. I'm in. Like, honestly, I'll probably, you know, once again, wait for reviews and stuff like that just to hear what people are saying, because, you know, I got the backlog. Everything that's interesting at this point, unless it's like 100%, like I know I'll play it day one, I'm like, I just wait at this point. But that one seems interesting. I feel like that's going to be a good one. I don't, you know, I'm familiar with Soma, so I'm excited for that one. It definitely looked creepy. There's so many games that had just creepy imagery, but this was the one that had the dude that had like half of the top of his head, and it seemed like he was just like wires underneath. And I was like, okay, I'm curious about this. I want to see what happens in this game. So that I thought was pretty cool. And then this is where we jump. We're going to start jumping all over the place, because I was just writing stuff down at this point. But I have to talk about Mega Man Dual Override. Mega Man has a video game coming out, which is crazy. I did not see that coming. As it was building up, I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. And then I knew. I was like, hold on. I know what this music is. What is this? And it took me a minute, because admittedly, it's not the music that I really listen to. I normally listen to like the main themes when it comes to Mega Man. And that's about as close as you get to like a main theme, because I'm pretty sure that might be Mega Man 2. I'm just assuming off of that, because, you know, after a certain point, I don't go back that far, admittedly. But I was hearing it and I was like, wait a minute, I know this music. And then it started to build up and I was like, holy crap, this is Mega Man. And of course, it's Mega Man. There's a new Mega Man game. I have to say this, and this is not in offense to the game or anything, it just looked like Mighty Number 9. That art style, that's all I can think of. Cell shaded, there it is. I couldn't think of the word. It has that cell shaded look. Also, it looks more like Mega Man 7 and 8, which I was very surprised by, because their whole thing was like, hey, we're going back to like classic Mega Man. I'm pretty sure like the last 3 games had the classic Mega Man style where he was, you know, really tiny, instead of it being like Mega Man 7 and 8. And the first Mega Man game I ever played was Mega Man 8. So I'm always more familiar with that look. And then of course, you know, if you want that, you can go to like the Mega Man X games. So I was surprised. I was like, oh, this reminds me, you know, more of, like I said, 7 and 8. And of course, a lot of people were like, hey, what about Mega Man X? I saw those tweets, so people want Mega Man X. Of course, everyone, you know, that has ever wanted it naturally wants Mega Man Legends 3. Or even 2. I can't even remember. I never played those, so I don't even remember if they did 1 and 2 and people want 3, or if they only did 1 and they want 2. I think they made 2 of them, because the second one's like Tron Bond, right? Yeah, so that's, yeah, Tron Bond, Mega Man Legends 2. It's a weird thing. But it's not that. It's not Mega Man X. It is just Mega Man, which I'm fine with. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'm looking forward to the music and some of the new, cool powers. Who knows if they'll do anything extra with that. I'm surprised, to say the least. Like, it's Mega Man. It shouldn't be a surprise because it's Mega Man. But it's like, it's been a minute since the last Mega Man game. And it's, like I said, the big change with them doing it that way. I'm very excited to see how that one turns out. So I hope it does really well. Who's to say if I'll ever buy another Mega Man game in my life? But I love Mega Man. Like, I played the crap out of Mega Man 8. I had the Mega Man collection on GameCube until it was broken. It got scratched up. I'm pretty sure my cousin did that, even though he lied about it. To this day, I'm like almost guaranteed that he scratched my game up. But I had the Mega Man collection. Shout out to that the fighting game that they had in that, where you could actually play as bass and stuff like that. I love those games. They were like the Japanese exclusive games. Love those. That I actually probably played that more than I played any of the other full-on Mega Man games. So I was like, ooh, this fighting Mega Man game is actually pretty sick. You just fight bosses and it's 2-player. That's amazing. You can play as bass. I love treble and bass. So that's cool. Ooh, maybe bass will show up again. I haven't seen him in like 100 million years. That would be sick. But anyway, moving on, we have Coven of the Chicken Foot. Also kind of a cel-shaded art style. It reminds me of the game Sable. I thought it was interesting, and all I could think was it would be so cool. And they titled the game already, but I was like, man, all I could think of is like this a little babushka. It was like a babushka and her monster. Is all I could think of while looking at that game. And I'm curious. I don't think I'll ever buy that game. I might get it for free someday. Shout out Epic Game Store. It might end up happening. But it looks cool. It definitely looks cool. I like the art style of it, and I'm curious to see how that one ends up panning out. But for me personally, it's like, oh, that's cool. I'll play it if I get it for free eventually, but that's not a game that I see myself buying. So looks cool. Definitely want to write it down because I definitely thought it was worth talking about though. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that one, because it's definitely like it's one of those ones where I can't say it's like a cute, cozy game. It's like, oh, kind of eco Shadow of the Colossus style, but also it's hard to tell with the story of the world what exactly is going to happen. Because I don't think it's just like, oh, it's a happy-go-lucky thing. It's also like post-apocalyptic or pseudo-apocalyptic in some sense, or maybe it's just war-torn. And is there just bodies and bits and pieces all over and weapons everywhere? So it's something going on there. But they kept it nice and simple. And then, if I remember right, the very end of that demo or trailer was like this random thing that had like a bunch of eyes on it. The eye opened up, and it was like, okay, so that's like their tease for the darker mystery of what's going on. Maybe that's the monster that destroyed the world or whatever. So something darker is going on in that game. So I'm actually curious story-wise about that more than anything else. So I'm like, the story of what weird thing ends up happening might be the thing that gets me into that game overall. But moving on to the next, we have Exodus. Exodus is the Matthew McConaughey game. That's who is narrating it. It's the space game where the guy was like going all over the place and doing all sorts of things that definitely, and I knew I wasn't the only person that thought this, because I've seen like 2 reactions so far, and in one of them, they said exactly what I thought, which was, I thought this was Mass Effect. Like 100%, because I was like, okay, Mass Effect 4 is going to be super separate and stuff like that. They had Liara, but the whole thing is that she can live for centuries. So it's like, okay, you do this trailer, you have a random character and do this, and this, and then boom, Liara shows up, and it's like, surprise, it's Mass Effect. And there were a couple things that made me think it was Mass Effect. There's one part where the dude's hand was, like his forearm was literally glowing blue, and I was like, that's like an Omni tool. That's like when you use like the state, I don't remember many of the actual abilities, but when you would use like the psychic abilities basically, and it was blue. And if you use like more tech-based stuff, it was orange. And I was like, his arm's blue. And then I think there was another part where his arm was orange. I was like, it could just look different because it's in the future of the franchise. It could be more streamlined and slimmed down, so it just literally looks like the person's hand instead of like an item on top of it or something. So there was a hot minute where I was like, oh, this feels like Mass Effect. Even the ships, I was like, that kind of, like obviously it's a totally different ship. It would be centuries later. But it's got the angles, it's got like the long curve of the Normandy. I was like, I don't know, this might be Mass Effect. It was not, it is Exodus. But still looks good. Being compared to Mass Effect, definitely cool. Also, if it's not Mass Effect, that means that it's probably, and I didn't look into this because it's just based on the trailers, but it seems like it's purely action-based instead of it being kind of RPG, which granted Mass Effect was also kind of a real-time RPG. Like you could slow it down. It was much like KOTOR, but you didn't have to if you just wanted to run and gun it. So if it's like that, basically real-time action, I think that can end up being something very exciting. So we'll see how that one pans out as well. Same element. Hard to tell, once again, because all I'm doing is being like, it kind of looks like Mass Effect, and I didn't look into the game. It's just what we were shown. Can't tell if it's really RPG based. Can't tell if it's, you can choose to be good, choose to be bad, or if it's just, hey, here's just the full-on story of the game. So have to wait and see on that, but I'm not sure if it's in that realm of, Mass Effect and Starfield and stuff like that, where you're choosing what you do in this crazy spacefaring adventure, or if it's just a crazy spacefaring adventure, and then the only thing you're really choosing is just like, hey, what powers do you want to invest into? So once again, we'll see how that pans out, but definitely not bad that it made me think of Mass Effect, because it looked cool the whole way through, and I was like, oh, it's not Mass Effect at all, but it still looks pretty nice. So I'm looking forward to that one, and once again, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see exactly what type of combat it is, if it's real time, if it's RPG, if you're RPG beyond just attacks and choosing weapons and skills and stuff. Is it RPG based on being the good version of this character or the bad version of this character? Are there romances? Are there friendships? All that stuff, we'll have to wait and see. Or it could just be, like I said, a straightforward, just really big story. So looking forward to more information on Exodus, because I thought that was pretty cool. And keeping ourselves in space, we have the second insane Star Wars surprise, because we didn't at the top of the show expect Fate of the Republic. That's insane. It wasn't just KOTOR remake, which we already weren't expecting, because it was like, man, that took so effing long, and it's like, oh, it's actually happening. Nope, brand new KOTOR, or well, can't even call it that, FOTOR technically, but that was crazy. Like, holy crap, it's brand new. The fact that it was happening in general would have been crazy even if it was KOTOR, but it was like, holy crap, it's Star Wars and it's new. And then they're like, hey, we got these people that do Burnout. I was like, oh, Burnout. That's a great sign. That's all you have to, honestly, you could just say Burnout. You're good. You can stop right there. People that did Burnout, I'm in. I'll at least look at it. Like that's all you gotta say. I'm not a big racing dude, but I'm an arcade racing guy for sure. And it was like, okay, let's see what the Burnout people have done. And it was like something else. It was Burnout. They mentioned something else. I can't recall exactly, but they said Burnout, and maybe it was like some of the people that also used to work on the other Horizon games, or Forza, Horizon games. I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what this is. And then effing Star Wars showed up, and we have Star Wars Galactic Racer. I could not believe it. That's honestly one of the biggest surprises of the whole show for me, where I was like, oh, like both Star Wars games were just like, holy crap, I didn't see that coming. Obviously the KOTOR thing, or FOTOR thing, might be a little bigger when it comes down to it. I mean, obviously you're going Star Wars racing game versus giant RPG made by the dude who made not only the original KOTOR, or helped make the original KOTOR games, but also Mass Effect. So it's like, that's a huge deal. And then you take that and you go to the gaming side, or the driving side of the gaming universe, where it's like, who are the people that have done like famous games? You got Need for Speed people, obviously current day you have the Forza Horizon folks, and then of course you have the Burnout folks. And then you do that and you get some of those people, and you tell me Star Wars is coming out, and they're like, it's not just pod racing. They have pod racers and other sorts of little speeders and stuff. And so Boba popped up at the end. I was like, wow, that's a Boba. So that was absolutely amazing. We have not had a Star Wars racing game in an eternity. I mean, shout out to the pod racing game, which is still effing amazing. Shout out to Star Wars Demolition. Back in the day, it was a Destruction Derby Star Wars game. I spent hours on that. My cousin had that every time I was there. We were playing Star Wars Demolition. That game should be on the PlayStation Store, honestly. Like, that game is super underrated amongst the weird Phantom Menace era of gaming, where it was like, here's episode 1 in this really weird game, and then here's Star Wars Jedi Power Battles, which is also a phenomenal game. So good it even got an effing remake. But Star Wars Demolition, a destruction, basically, think Twisted Metal, but Star Wars. There you go. But that junk was fun, and it was all sorts of different characters, and then you'd have all different sorts of ships, and it was made during the Phantom Menace era, but it had like everything. So it was like, hey, you could fight in an area that's based on like Jabba's palace, you could fight on Naboo, you could fight on other planets. It was like the entire, at that point at least, it was the entire franchise of Star Wars, where it was just like, here's a bunch of different characters and a bunch of different ships and things they'd be on, and everybody has different abilities. You can unlock secret characters and stuff like that, where Darth Maul was a secret character, and one of the things was you could have his lightsaber turn on his little speeder ship and stuff like that. It was amazing. I missed that game. Like, that just really popped into my. I didn't even think of that when I was watching the trailer yesterday. But shout out to Star Wars Demolition. That game's amazing. Check it out if you have not seen it. Just go on YouTube. It's really good. I cannot wait for this. A Star Wars racing game, that's going to be fun. That's one of the few things where I'm like, dang, I kind of have to get it on PC because I want to play online. But I'm sure I'm going to enjoy that regardless of whether or not I get it on console or PC. Like, that's going to be an amazing effing time. So I can't wait to get more information on that game because I'm super excited. But Star Wars Galactic Racer, very excited for that. And then another thing that I'm excited for, which also surprised just about every single person that saw this effing trailer, Forest 3. None of us saw that coming. This trailer's happening. It's like, oh, it's super creepy. This guy lands on this planet. He's got like his little robot stuff. And then it's just random booty coming out of a swamp. I was like, this half a woman is standing up. I was like, this booty. And then she just turns around and it's just like, this is weird. What is this weird thing? And then it's like Forest 3. Like, that is insane. That's the first time I've ever been interested in those Forest games. I never had much interest. I've watched YouTube videos on them, and I think they're somewhat interesting, but never enough for me to play. And I was like, oh, it depends on, if it plays exactly like the other ones, then I probably won't do it. But I might, at the very least, I might end up checking this one out on YouTube again, just to look up some information and be like, okay, let me at least see how this really plays. So based on the other two games, I don't have much interest, mechanically speaking, but it shocked me enough to say, okay, I'm willing to give this a shot, especially if you're changing it up this dramatically. I'm willing to give this a chance. Let's see what in the world this does. So I'm already looking forward to that, at the very least, to see what the differences are. But definitely caught just about every single person off guard, I'm sure, because I don't know how you could possibly have seen that trailer and be like, oh my goodness, I think it's the Forest. Like, you could possibly make the slight connection because of the woman, but also she was like half a corpse. I hadn't seen, from what I'd seen in, the Forest games, normally it's like they just look like weird humans, or they're like an amalgamation in a weird mishmash. And that was kind of doing the inverse, where it's like, it looks like a human, but there are pieces missing instead. So maybe there's like one person on Earth that was just like, holy crap, I bet it's Forest 3. Maybe. But for the most part, I imagine everyone was like, what the F? I did not see that coming. So it catches your interest. It's one of those trailers, like I said, based on the other two games, I wouldn't buy it. But based on the trailer, it's like, I'm certainly willing to give it a shot. I'll see what the differences are. So looking forward to checking that out as we, kind of get more information going into next year. But after that, we have No Law. And this is exactly what I wrote down next to the name. Grizzled old man trying to take care of plants, because that's what it was. He was just, I'm retired and I just want to take care of my petunias. That's what that was. It was like, you guys should have left me alone, and now I got to teach you a lesson, the video game. And I'm totally fine with that. It's an action-y game. He was doing some crazy stuff too, because he was like jumping off of rooftops and then just landing on his knees. And I was like, so it's got like cybernetic stuff, right? Like, it's clearly got like future tech. They have like, Ed 209 walking through the streets type stuff, which is the giant mech. People might not get that RoboCop reference, but the giant mech that was running through the streets. So there was a lot of weird things going on. I'm like, okay, he's got like augmentations and stuff like that, because like I said, he jumped off a thing. I would assume it's augmentations and not powers, because it just kind of seems like that sort of world based on the trailer itself. So seems interesting, seems nice and simple. The corrupt city, I told them to leave me alone. They wouldn't do that. They destroyed my plants. Like, oh my God, my aloe vera is leaking. I got to shoot somebody in the face. And that's the video game. And I think it'll be nice and simple and fun. Kind of John Wick of video games, where it's like, it's a very simple story, and we're just going to give you set piece and a world and cool moves. And that's all you need to be concerned with. And I'm fine with that. So as long as it pans out, I think we'll be good. From there, I want to do Gang of Dragon, because I was thinking that I didn't write that down, but I do want to talk about that, since I'm thinking, grizzled older guys just beating people up. I cannot remember the actor's name, but of course, he became more popular in the States because Train to Busan became so excessively popular. But he was the dude that was like Angelina Jolie's wife, or he was her husband in the Eternals movie. That guy. Cannot remember his name for the life of me right now, but it's cool to see him in a game. And it's by the Yakuza / Like a Dragon creator. So that should be awesome. Didn't see much gameplay, but it was like very simple. Also, the dialogue was hilarious to me, because I was like, they are acting, no joke, like a 90s martial arts movie dub. Like, the way they were talking sounded like a martial arts movie dubbed from the 90s. And I was like, this is super weird. And I don't know if that's on purpose or if that's just who they got for the trailers. I genuinely couldn't tell, but I'm like, it feels like a 90, like just watch that trailer again and think about it. If you've seen like classic dubs for old martial arts movies where it's like these people are clearly speaking a different language, just think of that as you watch the Gang of Dragon trailer again. It made me laugh, but I was like, I'm still invested in this. I'm excited to see how this pans out. So we'll see. Just punch some people up real bad and keep on keeping on. So I'm sure that'll be pretty awesome. And it's great to see that guy in a video game because, you know, video games I think will be even more widespread, especially with this being at the Game Awards and so many people liking the Yakuza stuff. People will get into like all the things he's done outside of, you know, Train to Busan or, you know, seeing him in the Eternals. He was also in a movie recently, and I'd seen clips of this is only relevant because it's a Resident Evil reference, but it was some movie he was in, and like way before the movie came out, there was a clip of him. And I saw this post, and they were talking about the fact that he had like a Hello Kitty case over his cell phone. But I was more invested in the fact that he was randomly wearing a Resident Evil like bomber jacket, and it had like the stars patch on the side. And then he actually had that in the movie. Like I saw a clip of the movie, and I was like, oh no, he actually wore that. I just thought he was wearing the jacket at random, and then I was like, I wonder, because he had that jacket on in the movie, I was like, I wonder if that was someone from production that's like snuck that in because they were fans of Resident Evil. Or if that was like his thing and he asked to have that in there. So I don't know the answer to that, but in that random movie that I don't know the name of that he was in, for the actor that I can't name right now, I remember seeing that clip. And then when I saw the actual movie, I was like, oh, I just thought he was walking around just with the jacket on. But now that it's in the movie, maybe that was like a production thing where somebody was like, why don't we just sneak this Resident Evil jacket in there? But either way, wanted to reference that because I love that random picture. I was like, yo, you got a Resident Evil jacket on. That's always gonna be cool to me. But moving on from there, we have a classic franchise making its return, Ace Combat. And as I was watching, I was like, man, is this Ace Combat? And they kept saying Ace, but I'm like, you know, people say Ace all the effing time. He's an Ace Flyer and all this crap. I'm like, we'll see what happens. But it was Ace Combat 8, Wings of Thieve, if I'm not mistaken. I'm curious. If they do PSVR 2, I might be all in. Honestly, I haven't played an Ace Combat game. I'm sure I played a demo somewhere, but the only thing I remember is the demo of the original game. And I've mentioned this probably multiple times on the channel, but I talk about it a lot because I play Astro Bot and they have references to Ace Combat. But all I remember from Ace Combat is the first PS1 game and then having my demo disc and just playing around, and all I would ever do in that game is try to fly low to the ground and like, you know, fly between buildings. And it was just super cool. And they would always give you the warning, like, pull up, pull up, pull up. Like, that's all I remember from Ace Combat. But I love the crap out of that from back in the day. And it was super fun. I don't know. We'll see how it pans out. But I'm just like, man, if they hit it with the PSVR 2, I might not have a choice. Because, like, I really enjoyed just that idea. It might be way more realistic now. I won't just be flying through that one city level 100 times over. But, you know, it's Ace Combat, so it's always got a nice special place in my heart. But Ace Combat 8 is going to be happening, and I'm excited for that. Also excited for Phantom Blade Zero. It looks super cool. Some people still might not know this. It's not a Souls-like. It is a hack and slash. It is a full-on action game that just has a lot of insane options to it. Much like, what is that? Dawn of Blood or something. Whatever that giant game, Crimson Desert. No idea where I got Dawn of Blood from. I was thinking Dusk Bloods. But Crimson Desert, it reminds me of that, where it's like just ridiculous options for what you can do. And it's just hack and slash. It's like, hey, you want to do this? Try it out. That's what Phantom Blade, both those games have that same aesthetic. And I'm curious how both of them are really going to pan out. Once again, I'll probably wait and see a little bit, just because, especially with next year, I'm actually going to be buying multiple games because I'm buying a sweep from Capcom as well as Control. But that looks super cool. Every time I see more of that game, it's just over the top action, and it's that type of game where the moves look like they're all in cutscene, where, you know, you see CG videos of games and it's like, can they really move like that? Or is this just like an interpretation of what we want them to kind of move like? This is the essence of how we want you to feel the characters are moving, but they don't actually move like that. In Phantom Blade Zero, they move like that. You just do the crazy moves and hit the buttons, and he does all the weird twists and turns. And in this new trailer, it was clear that you actually get moves from bosses, because they had the the guy doing like Drunken Master, where it was like, oh, you destroyed my sword, but he was like moving in Drunken Master form and moving so swiftly that like he was, you know, still using a blade. I was like, that's actually super cool. And they showed the main character using that move later on. So you get some of the abilities from the bosses. You got all sorts of weird stuff going on. They had the last gameplay thing we saw where they showed on like a straight up boss fight where the character like splits into 3 and stuff like that. And I was like, this game's crazy. So I can't wait for this one to come out. Like I said, it'll still probably be a minute after it comes out before I actually get the game. But 100%, it's going to be insane. I really hope it lives up to the expectations, because if that's the case, it's going to get some nominations and it's definitely going to get some awards. It's going to be up there. Like already, it's like, all right, if this officially comes out next year, which I don't think they're going to do a delay at this point, you know, with them especially, you know, literally giving us the release date and then it's like, sorry, delayed. But then again, you know, GTA. But anything can happen. But if it comes out, and you know, it releases next year, it's going to be in competition. It's going to be at the Game Awards for sure. If it lives up to what it's showing us, it will be at the Game Awards, guaranteed. You know, best action game, action adventure, whatever categories they try to slot it into. Music might even be in there too. It just depends how hard they go with that. But as a game in general, I have no doubts. As long as it lives up to it, this game will get talked about for a super long time. People still talk about Sekiro when it comes to like Souls-likes and stuff. Like, people still reference that from back in the day. I still need to play that myself, honestly. But I feel like it's gonna hit that category and be like, okay, it should be really good. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. And then I have 3 left. The last 2 are the ones that I'm excited for. This next one was just the last game that we saw, and it's High Guard. I know that kind of knocked people down when it came to the actual award show. It didn't for me. I was just like, okay, it seems cool. You know, it's interesting that I just wasn't really bothered by it. I don't know why. I don't know. I just wasn't really affected by the fact that that was the last one. Like, normally I would be if it was like, oh, that's a disappointing thing. I feel like he also didn't really hype it up. Like, if he hyped it up and then it was bad, that would be different. But he hyped it up and it was like, or he didn't really hype it up. It was just like, you know, we got a game and it's coming out. And it's by the people that did Apex Legends and whatever other thing he said. It was like 2 games I don't care about because I'm not playing Apex Legends. But I felt like it was better than what other people mentioned, because it seemed way more on the grand scale compared to just like a normal hero shooter. It was like, it seems like, you know, you go to war, like you have like defenses and you doing battering rams and it's like, we get to this location. It seems more war based than it does actual like just hero shooter based. So I think that's why I was like, oh, it doesn't seem like crap. It seems like way more than just like, oh, I'm a hero shooter and then I pick this character because they have this gun or this style and then I do these moves. It seemed like it was like, no, this is like, you play a straight up war. Like, someone is attacking and someone's defending, and it gets to the point that you're kind of going through the different stages of basically like sieging a castle. And I was like, that doesn't seem that bad to me personally. You know, like a much more, you know, casual version of like For Honor type of thing where you like siege a castle and stuff like that. It seems like the, you know, the more kid-friendly version of it, where it's, you know, a lighter art style and stuff like that, still shooting people up and everything, but kind of nice and simple, you know, get some might and magic going and then you siege a castle. And it seemed like I said, for me personally, I was like, okay, that's interesting enough. Like I said, it, you know, granted it's going to be free anyway, so I guess it doesn't make a difference. But for me, I was like, this doesn't really seem like every other hero shooter. It does, you know, the actual mechanics of just attacking and stuff, yeah. But like I said, from what I gathered from the trailer, as it continued on, it was like, it got to the point where they're like, okay, we made it to this part, and then they like shatter this shield and then do like a final charge. And I was like, oh, this has been ramping up. I thought they were just showing different battles, and then it showed it like, oh no, this was seemingly, once again, it's a trailer. So in my head, I was like, by the time it got to the end, I was like, oh, this was just like one large battle, not just a bunch of different random battles over and over again. It was one long battle leading up to this siege at the very end. So if I'm correct in that, because like I said, that's how I interpreted it as the trailer, you know, got to that point, then I think it does have some potential. Still, I can totally understand people not being super hyped on it, or it even taking things down, considering the crazy stuff we got. I mean, imagine they dropped you know, the new Star Wars game, either one really, as a final thing, but especially if you do Fate of the Old Republic at the very end, it's like, oh, that's crazy. I think I mentioned in the last video, the Tomb Raider thing I think was actually good enough, which I actually don't believe I wrote down on this list. So, oh no, I did in the last one. But yeah, I thought that would actually have been good enough, because I thought those reveals were actually pretty cool, where it was like, hey, new game coming out, oh, 2027, and then surprise, full-on remake next year for the first game. So there are definitely reveals that 100% would have been better as the final thing, so I can understand that. But for me personally, even though I had literally zero interest. As soon as he said Apex Legends, I was like, this nothing for me. And then even watching it, I was still kind of like, okay, like an actual, we'll see how it goes. Once again, actual gameplay wise, we'll see what happens, how big the teams are and all that crap. But I was like, okay, I can appreciate something that's just like an actual full-on war situation. And then, do some might and magic weapons type of stuff. We'll see what happens. It'll be free to play. It comes out in like, 7 weeks or 6 or 7 weeks, something like that. Maybe that's just like the first playtest or whatever, but it's coming out super soon. And we'll see how that ends up panning out, because it's from people that have made some of the most long-lasting free-to-play games out there. We'll see if they can make something new. But that leaves us down to the final 2 games. Thank goodness for this traffic, because I can actually just talk. And these will probably get their own videos anyway, depends how I'm feeling about it. But first off, Resident Evil 9. I have to start off by saying I did everything I could to just ignore everything I could as far as the effing leaks for this game, because that is all the community has been talking about. Somebody mentioned Leon. I think Leon's gonna pop up, and like that first thing where it's like, yeah, like they referenced Leon, because even before they talked about the game, leaks were coming out that Leon was gonna be in it. And it's like, Leon, like, want to make it like this, and kind of like how Leon would do this, but this character's like this. Like, oh, why'd they reference Leon? Oh, we got leaks of Leon. He's got an eye patch. That was fake. Oh, somebody screwed up and they put Leon on PSN and they showed a new picture of Resident Evil 9. I avoided all that because I was like, as many leaks as there were, I was like, yeah, he's in the game. But I just didn't want to listen to any of it. Also, I didn't want to hear any extra leaks because I'm like, I don't want leaks for my games. I'll look at leaks for like Zenless Zone Zero. Like, yeah, let me look at the random free character I'm gonna get, or probably not get because I'm not spending money. I don't want to know what characters are popping up in Resident Evil 9. That is like different, like it's only these couple characters. I don't want to know anything about the story for Resident Evil 9. I don't want to know. So I did everything I could to avoid it, and I was like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see if this is officially going to be the moment. And it is official. Leon Scott Kennedy is in Resident Evil 9. And he's 51 years old, I believe. We're still rocking a good jacket, still doing kicks. I mean, he's still... I'm excited. All right, I'm looking forward to it. I was already looking forward to the game. It's Resident Evil. I'm always looking forward to Resident Evil. It seems like it's going to be scary. And then, of course, they're like, hey, here's Leon to do all the action stuff. And that's what everybody was saying anyway. Like, all right, well, I don't want Leon in it because it'll be too action-y. Like, how do you do that? Well, we'll split it up because that's what they've been doing at this point. They know how to do both sides. Granted, it does depend on who's actually doing it, if it'll be fun on both sides, or it can be fun, scary, and fun action-y. Resident Evil 4, absolutely amazing. I think it was a great blend of action and horror. It still has more action, I would say, overall, but it has way more horror than the original Resident Evil 4 did, so I love the remake of 4. I like the remake of 4 more than I like the original game, because it's actually a lot scarier. So I think we can enjoy a good balance. We just have to see how that balance is done. How many levels are Grace? How many levels are Leon? Is it a back and forth thing? Are they gonna do, like, this is a crazy thought. I don't think they'll do it, but I would love it if they did. If it was like, hey, you can choose which character to play as. If they have to split up for whatever reason, like write some contrived reasoning for why they need to split up. Hey, Grace has to go over here. She can still somewhat handle herself, and as the game continues, it'll make more sense for her to be able to handle herself. And then Leon, of course, from day, second one of the game, he can spin kick using chainsaws on the enemies. Beautiful to see them do that. They threw that in there for the fans, like, hey, we know what we've been doing. We know how it's been. But what if you took the chainsaw this time? Very cool. Also, he kicked one of the zombies. Watch this scene where they show the gameplay at the end and he's doing like his cool moves. He kicked that zombie. He did that spin kick. That zombie flew so effing far across the room. It was ridiculous. It was hilarious, but it was ridiculous. Like, go back and actually look at how far that zombie actually flies when he kicks it. I'm like, that makes no sense. I hope they keep it in because it's hilarious. Like, it was a ridiculous send on that kick. But I cannot wait for Resident Evil 9. I will say this. I'm still shocked that there was no demo. I was saying that, like, as soon as it was announced at like Summer Game Fest, I was like, you know what? It comes out in February. There's gonna be a demo at the Game Awards. That was like the first thing I thought. Was like, they're gonna do it. Like, even though it's like 2 months, it's not that far, but they didn't. But we got an effing demo for Pragmata which releases in April. I cannot believe that happened. I'm like, they did not do a demo for the game that comes out in 2 months. I was incredibly shocked by that, especially considering the Pragmata demo is just the original demo that everyone got to play. Like, if you got to go to the events, it was the Pragmata demo. I assumed that the demo we were gonna get for Resident Evil 9 was just gonna be the original demo. Like, you wouldn't even play as Leon. It was just gonna be Grace. So that's what I assumed from the very beginning. I was like, you know, if we get a demo, that's what's gonna happen. I'm genuinely shocked that we didn't get one, and it does make me curious what the demo is gonna be, because we've had demos for every Resident Evil game for quite a while. I think we've had a demo for everyone since the RE2 remake. I don't think 7 had an actual demo to download, but there were just demos that you could play. So 2 had the early demo, 3 had the early demo, 8 had the village demo where you start in the very beginning of that. 4 had the actual, you know, they even called it like the chainsaw demo. So every game has had a demo up to this point, you know, starting with the 2 remake ever since then. So I was incredibly shocked. So maybe they are waiting, and when we get the demo, we will actually get both halves. So it'll be kind of the old demo that everyone's gotten to play of Grace and like her section running through the house and everything, like, or the mansion area. And then there'll be a second portion of that demo where it's like, hey, now you can experience the Leon side of things, which I think will be more familiar for us because, of course, coming off of RE4 and stuff like that, they'll be like, okay, here's the action side. But that's just my guess. Now that they've done the official reveal, maybe, I don't know if they'll do, you know, surprise on Christmas. They're like, surprise, we're just going to drop a demo next month or something. But there's going to be a demo for sure. I don't know if it'll be the old demo that we already had, or if there's going to be a brand new demo where you get to experience both characters. But there's got to be one coming up. And I was genuinely shocked. I was like, holy crap, we got a demo for Pragmata, which was awesome. But I was extremely surprised that the game that actually releases in 2 months does not get its own demo. So surprised by that one. Looking forward to that changing very soon, because we only got a couple, 2 months to wait for the effing game to officially release anyway. So I'm definitely looking forward to that changing up 100%. And that's almost perfect timing with traffic randomly picking up, which I was just behind a slow truck. There was like no one in front of this 18-wheeler. He was going insanely slow, like slower than an 18-wheeler normally goes. There was like no traffic. Super weird. Anyway, the final game. And this was the one, there were a couple surprises. Star Wars off the top. Holy crap, I didn't see that coming. Not just a cultural remake, brand new Knights of the Old Republic game, or Old Republic game in general. Other Star Wars game. We got Star Wars Racing coming back. That's crazy. Resident Evil 9 would have been a great surprise if, there weren't 100 billion leaks. It would have been nice to have just been like, holy crap, Leon is in the game. If there was no reference to it, that of course would have been an amazing surprise. But still awesome to see it. Definitely fun. A couple other random things that popped up. Like I said, Tomb Raider was good, all that stuff. Seeing Pragmata, getting the Pragmata demo was a holy crap moment for sure. And then Control happens. Control Resonance. And like last week, or maybe it was even the week before last, it was like, hey, Remedy trademarked this thing, Control Resonance. Like, okay. That's all I thought. It just kind of flew by for me because I'm like, all right, well, they just trademarked it. So does, in my head, I'm like, well, they just did that. So obviously they wouldn't have anything ready for the game. They just trademarked it. But no, the game is ready. It was ready enough to show some actual effing gameplay, which was great. Because of course, I thought it was just going to be a video. And that in itself was good enough, where it was like, hey, because that's typically how they do it anyway. Alan Wake was just like an initial trailer and stuff like that. It was just like you see stuff, especially for it being the first trailer, it's normally just you see the trailer and then that's pretty much it. And then it was like, okay, we have Dylan. We have Dylan as the playable main character for this game. And it is the second game. It is Control 2. Like there was a thing, the blog post or whatever that they did was like, hey, this isn't like a spinoff just because we didn't call it 2. It's not Alan Wake's American Nightmare, which is also canon, so that's technically the second Alan Wake game, just throwing that out there. But it is officially the sequel to Control. You have Control, then you have Control Resonance. So instead of playing as Jessie, we are now playing as her brother. The board is mad at Jessie, which admittedly, especially if you play the DLC with some of the stuff going on with the former, lots of details. If you haven't gotten into Control and you're not like a giant Remedy fan like I am, it won't matter. But the point is, they're a little mad at Jessie, and now I'm like, okay, so are we playing as Dylan going after Jessie, and you're teaming up with the board, but Jessie has now switched because they're doing it in real time. So if you played Alan Wake 2 and especially the Lake House DLC, they're like, hey, things have still been blocked off. This trailer is actually everything that was in the Alan Wake 2 DLC. So for anyone that hasn't played it, I'm gonna do like a very small spoiler because they showed a portion of Control 2. There's a moment that you can totally skip, but there's a moment in that DLC towards the end where you can go talk to Dylan. Like you'll pull the light switch 3 times just like you do in Control, and it sends you to Dylan. And then he starts talking to you, and it's like, hey, what's going on? Like, where the F are we? Like, are you in the building? Because obviously you're playing a character that has been locked out of the oldest house for however many years it's been since Control. And it's like, hey, what's going on? And so then they start playing some images and stuff. All the footage of New York is shown in the actual trailer in color. Like it's in like black and white, if I'm not mistaken. It's been, it's been months since I played the DLC, but if I'm not mistaken, all the footage from the actual, or in the DLC was like in black and white, and it was just like random stuff kind of popping up. And then I was like, holy crap, this is everything they showed in the actual game. And now it's in full color, and you have like the actual details of Dylan explaining what's going on. And then he has like an insane weapon that I guess the board just created, because they're like, hey, I would assume she stole the director's weapon, so it's still on her. And she was seemingly trying to kill him and like stab him with this piece of metal, and then that became his weapon that they gave him. And he can just like make stuff happen, because it wasn't like the normal, which granted, the director's gun makes things materialize out of nothing. Like you just have a gun, and then it's like, well, I want it to be a handgun, and then I also magically want to turn it into a rocket launcher. So it technically also materializes things out of thin air. But he just has like a little metal stick, and then it's like, all right, well, I'm tired of these 2 dual wielding blades. Let me just toss these off. And then a giant like super hammer just forms. It just materializes out of nothing. He doesn't like swarm metal to him like Magneto. He just holds it and is like, I want a big hammer. And it just pops up. And I was like, what is happening with this game? And then it goes to actual gameplay, and they got the crazy, I gotta look up the music for it because I love the music that ended up playing. And he got like the dual blade, and he's stabbing, and then they show the hammer, and then he's got like molten lava arms and stuff, and he's like punching things, and I'm like, good lord. And they're calling it an action RPG. I'm telling you, I cannot wait for this. They're always doing some different stuff all the effing time. I personally have like 0 doubts that they can pull off an action game, because honestly, the first thing I think of, if you ever doubt whether or not Remedy can pull off action, just go to Quantum Break. It's the game that most people haven't played anyway out of the Remedyverse games. And I mean, obviously you could also you go backwards to F and Max Payne. Obviously those are like 2 well-known action games. Granted, that's with the guns. This is gonna be more melee, but I would say go look at Quantum Break, because that's definitely more of an action game than even the Alan Wake games, where like you have the ability to fight and stuff, but in Quantum Break you're literally like, I can shoot like a little time bubble and freeze people in space, or I can you can combine your abilities. You can like do like super speed dodges where you like run across the map really fast, all sorts of stuff, because you're playing with time. So you can make yourself faster, slow other people down, and it's way more action heavy compared to Alan Wake, where it's like, hey, flash your light at them and then get them and then just shoot them as you're up close. Like that's more of a defensive mechanism and run and gun type of thing, where you shoot and then you take off so they don't swarm you. And this is like, no, they're going full action. Like I don't think you're gonna have to worry about standing in the light when it comes to this game. Obviously you didn't have to do that for the first Control either. You run and gun, shield, shoot and blast and float around. So I'm excited. I'm very curious what the mechanics are going to be when it comes to kind of the RPG elements, with them calling it that. I'm very excited. So Control, I would say, was like my #1 thing, because I wasn't really expecting it. Even though I heard the news, I was like, okay, they got like a trademark, no big deal. That doesn't necessarily mean there's anything that they're going to show right now if they just did the trademark, but apparently they do it like at the last minute. Sometimes they do. But that was amazing. I cannot wait to see when the world happens. We got a little bit of Jessie in there with her stabbing her brother, or almost stabbing him, and then she shows up at the very end where she's doing like her classic flow, and she has like long hair, she's got like the bun and everything. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I'm excited to see what in the world that game is going to do. And it comes out next year, which is super crazy. I could not believe that it was just like, boom, 2026. I was like, yes. So, crap, I got 5 games I gotta buy, because I forgot about Wolverine. So I gotta buy Resident Evil, Pragmata, Onimusha, Control Resonance, and then Wolverine at the end of the year. And we'll see where Control ends up landing, because that might be close to the end of the year too. And I'm not gonna lie, if they force me to choose, I will see Wolverine later. I like, it's just how it's gonna be. Like no matter what, like honestly, I already know where Resident Evil is. So Resident Evil is set. Pragmata is now set at April. Wherever Remedy lands, that's top priority. It does not matter if Onimusha comes back. Like, it is not coming back before Control does. Like that is my #1 priority. So very excited for that one. That is, like I said, that's my favorite thing, because I just wasn't expecting. I wasn't even thinking about it much. Like, whatever. That's, we'll see what happens. And then it was just like, boom, here you go. So I'm excited. Action RPG. I can't wait to see what happens with this game, how weird it's going to be, how anything could possibly get fixed. Like, basically, demons broke out of the oldest house and have warped New York. But somehow they're going to fix it. I don't know, but I can't wait. I cannot wait to see what happens in this game. So looking forward to that. Had a great time with the Game Awards, like I said. I know this was obviously like 5 times longer than the last one, but I knew that was going to be necessary, and I'm glad I got the time. I actually needed the extra traffic to really just nerd out over the Game Awards, because it was a really good one. It was actually a lot worth talking about. The Epic Game Store. I was waiting for them to do that reveal, and I was like, okay, it better be something good. Harry Potter. For me personally, that was really good. I went on Twitter, and it was like a lot of people being like, I don't want this anyway, you can keep it. And I was like, oh man, that sucks. I'm excited, because I wanted that game like crazy. So now I got it for free, and then I can just buy the DLC later when they, if I want to get like the deluxe edition content and stuff. So for me personally, that was an amazing reveal. But I know there are a lot of people who were like, not this one. Not this game, please. So for me, it was great. We'd love to know your thoughts on that and all things Game Awards 2025. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.